Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Saturday, the 6th of October, 2012. A little area of interest out here. This is actually Invest 97L, even though as of this morning there was not a yellow or orange area or anything like that outlined on the Hurricane Center's tropical weather outlook map. This is 97L. Now it's a little bit more interesting looking on satellite than it is in reality. You have a lot of blobs of showers and thunderstorms in here, a lot of clusters of those, but it's not very well organized overall. In fact, if we look at the Tropical Analysis Forecast branch from the National Hurricane Center, you can see it's a 1,008 millibar low, so it's fairly low. Yeah, it's decent enough, but it's associated with this surface trough with a little weak low on the end of it. Another little surface trough moving through here, a tropical wave here, a tropical wave there. And then you have the monsoon trough. Really neat, these products that are available for analysis. But the bottom line, this is really not that big of a deal. Don't think it's going to strengthen into much at all. An interest to boaters, certainly throughout this region, because it will bring some showers and thunderstorms, brief gusty winds. So small craft, boaters, sailboats, etc., you really need to pay attention to this because it is an active weather feature. Sea surface temperatures in the region, nice and warm in the low 80s right through here where it's located. In fact, most of the western Atlantic Basin, Caribbean, and Gulf, very warm as you would expect this time of year. It's going to take a few more weeks for things to really start to cool off, and that's part of the reason why we monitor the western Atlantic, the Gulf, and Caribbean this time of year. Looking at the GFS 5,000-foot winds, here's the southeast coast of the U.S. right here. This is 97L, this is Puerto Rico. Here's Hispaniola and Cuba, and really not that much energy associated with it, not a lot of spin in the atmosphere, so it doesn't tell me that this is very potent, so I don't see much potential for this to develop. If we look at it in 48 hours, it moves right along into the southeast Bahamas, going to bring some squally weather like I mentioned, and that is a big deal for boaters and anybody out in the Bahamas trying to enjoy a nice weekend into early next week for Columbus Day. This will be out there to monitor, but more of just a nuisance with showers and thunderstorms. It does seem to try to invigorate itself a little bit by, I guess this is Monday, 72 hours, Tuesday, I'm sorry. So by next Tuesday, maybe it's a little bit stronger in the Bahamas, but even that, at most, I think maybe it could become a tropical depression or a subtropical system, but I doubt it. There's just not enough environmental conditions that are favorable. It has more going against it, put it that way, than it does for it. What we will be watching is for the eventual pile up of energy. You see how the winds are coming in pretty much straight east to west here, but then they just start to bend just a little bit. Once you get into the Caribbean, we can start to look in this region in about a week for convergence, or where the air starts to pile up in the Western Caribbean, Central Caribbean, as part of what may be an active period coming up for development in that region. In the Eastern Pacific, though, we do have another tropical depression. Small, insignificant overall. It's going to move off to the west-northwest and stay out over the open waters, as the Hurricane Center's forecast track shows. It'll eventually maybe become a tropical storm and then dissipate over the cooler waters of the Eastern Pacific. No threat or consequence at all to land areas. Now this is what I was talking about. This is valid in a little over a week's time. Kind of far out, honestly, to be looking in the models, but that's not too far out to where it's completely just random and chaotic. And what I'm looking for is to see, do we have some of these disturbances here moving into the Caribbean? And yes, we do. The GFS has been pretty persistent with its insistence of sending energy out of the deep tropics here that does not develop out here, but more or less sends it over to the Caribbean Sea, where conditions, according to the Euro, the ECMWF, the upper level 200 millibar pattern, the MJO, looks like it's going to start to become favorable by around that time frame as we get it into phases 1 and maybe eventually over into phase 2, and fairly amplified as well. So if we go back to that other slide, after about the next week to 10 days, somewhere in this region I favor, and I'm thinking it's going to be more like south of Haiti and west towards Jamaica in this box right here, I think we'll see something develop, and something that could impact land, not necessarily the United States, but when you see a large 1031 millibar high like we have here, a very cold for fall, big high pressure area with lots of high pressure in the atmosphere, you start to lower the pressures and create convergence down underneath that to the south. The wind's piling up through here, and then they slow down in the Caribbean Sea, and you allow the air to pile up on itself like a big train wreck. A terrible analogy, but that's kind of what it is. All that other energy starts to pile in from the front, where the air slows down, and then you get this convergence going on. And with a favorable MJO pattern like we're seeing here, possibly coming into the Atlantic Basin, it leads me to believe that we should see something towards the middle to latter part. I'd say the last third of October should be pretty busy with another name storm, probably in the Caribbean Sea. But for this weekend, only 97L is worth watching. And like I mentioned, though, if you're in a boat, that is definitely a problem. So if you're out in that region or know people that are, be mindful of that. The rest of the tropics behaving themselves very nicely for this first full weekend of October. Have yourselves a good rest of your Saturday. I'll be back tomorrow with another look at the tropics. Again, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. Check it out sometime if you haven't already. Always glad to produce these videos for you on Hurricane and Hurricane HD. And I'll be back again to do that tomorrow.